It's crazy that just 5 years ago, going to college and getting a managerial career within 5 years after getting a degree was possible. Getting a 100K a year job in a corporate, non entrepreneurial setting was a reasonable 10-year goal. I'm starting an app development business, so hopefully that dream is still alive for me. After talking with my friends, I'm just lucky to have a minimum wage job, let alone being employed. So the question should be asked, what the fuck happened? And AI is not to blame for this because, like I said with the app development business I want to get into, it's creating job opportunities. So I think first we should look at corporate bankruptcies like Claire's, Rite Aid, Spirit Airlines. All these places have in common is that they rely on consumers having money and spending it. So that means consumers have no money. So how's the job market looking like to get money? I sent out 40 applications just within the last 2 days. None of them even gave me a screening. And I'm someone with a 4-year degree, lobbying experience, and had my lobbying research amended into a bill. 2 articles written about my AI work by my university, and at least 3 years job experience. I've only applied to entry level positions. So why the fuck aren't companies hiring? Costs are still affordable. Their rates. Claire's rent eventually ate it out, but it was still technically affordable. And the market analysts say we should be in a period where AI will create more jobs than it destroys. The only two answers are that business is slow and no one has excess money to spend. So that leads to the last question. How do businesses get more money if nobody has money to give? Well, the Fed will probably have to print more money to either businesses or the people. More than likely, the businesses will get the money because a UBI is a hard communist idea and it's been the least successful communist idea. In Russia, they tried it out and it hurt the consumer way more than it did the business. Consumers, their prices for like bread and everything skyrocketed. Their prices for cars, everything pretty much skyrocketed. And the businesses were able to get the money, but people in Russia, they couldn't see retirement. They had a UBI, that was going to be their retirement. So this leads me to the main idea of the video, and that it's more than likely we're going to have a great economic crash or live under a monopolist dystopia ran by the richest people in the world, or both. Gen X and boomers, when they die, they will give their properties to the top percent or real estate conglomerates who will turn their properties into rented apartments. Hence, you will own nothing and be happy. Gen Z and under will have to move out to the Midwest or anywhere where it's affordable to own a home, taking their money out of the home state that depends on them paying taxes and keeping the economy afloat. Even just moving to, like, let's say a cheap town that's about like 10 minutes away from where you live. If you live in like a middle class area, you're taking that money out of that middle class area, and that middle class area will go downhill. So the economies can't stay afloat when it's like this. And I would say New York City is very likely to look like Detroit. I cannot see people. Even, like, I get the whole living in the city vibe. It's loud. There's tons of smells everywhere. There's nice, cute shops everywhere. But there's going to come a point where people are going to say, hey, I just can't fucking afford this. And they're either going to move to a different city, or they're just going to move out entirely to somewhere where they can own a home and hopefully have a better future. So New York City is very likely to look like Detroit. Especially since people in cities, how can you own a kid? You can barely even own a car, let alone that. So, you're not going to be able to own a kid. Or have a kid. I shouldn't say own. Uh, Top percent companies will buy out the failing businesses when these people move out. And they're going to realize there's no one there to keep them in business. They can cut costs even when the AI workers are created. Like already, you might see Flippy, the burger flipper. That's not going to save them when there's no one with a job that can afford their products. Metropolitan areas are going to face a great crash when all the young people move out who want to start families, and new metropolises will form in barren states. Barren states like Kentucky, even Delaware. Delaware is a beautiful state. I actually want to move there. They have affordable housing, lowish taxes, and they have beaches everywhere. So, it's almost like it's almost like the country part of Florida if you've ever been there before, or northern Florida. So, yeah, there's remote work now. If I can own a business and work from home, as I have a wife who's a waitress or works in a small shop or a teacher, afford a house and kids, that's what I'm going to do. Even if I'm just getting by and I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I'm not going to get by living in overinflated New York. I'm not even going to get close to getting by. My kids are probably not even going to go to college unless college prices drop. I went to Pace, and I was lucky enough to get a $120,000 scholarship. I could not imagine my dad, being happy if I didn't even get he could not be happy with the grades I got if I didn't get that scholarship. He might have probably forced me to go to community college and try to figure out how to live a life from there. But yeah, I'll probably have to educate my own kids about business and AI. The biggest crash indicator is definitely going to be everybody's migration trends. When no one is left who can afford college, colleges will crash. And when no one is left to afford a home, housing will crash because they won't be able to sell at the market price. So housing prices will go down. And yeah, that's when nobody's left. Businesses will crash, and New York City will be left with a concrete jungle, but no animals for the ecosystem. The buildings themselves will start to crash. And if you have listened to the news for like the past 5 years, Pace University in New York City, they had a building already crash. And I don't know if that's because they just don't have enough money to keep the buildings renovated or what, man. It's the biggest future crash that the world has yet to see. You might not see it with Gen Z. You might not see it with Gen Alpha. But it's going to happen. Alright, so that's enough for now. Look to start a remote business. Move out to the Midwest or a cheap town. Everyone is going to do it eventually. So, why wait? Have a good one.